it means you have to give it an up or down vote. In other words, there's no such thing as yes means yes for the Supreme Court, apparently, according to Alan Dershowitz. None of this makes any sense, but at least maybe he'll get to go back to some of those cocktail parties on Martha's Vineyard. Okay, but the stupidity doesn't only emerge from the left when it comes to the Supreme Court. Sometimes it emerges from people who are quasi on the right. The latest evidence is Tomi Lahren. So I don't want to rip on Tomi Lahren too much. I think that Tomi Lahren has her heart in the right place sometimes. I think that she hasn't studied these issues particularly well. I think that her ideas on abortion are inane, to put it mildly. And she was on Fox and Friends this morning, and she was talking about Roe v. Wade and soon-to-be Justice Kavanaugh using her vast legal experience to delve into the intricacies of Supreme Court precedent. And here was Tomi Lahren explaining why conservatives really should just let Roe v. Wade alone.
Some of my fellow conservatives who have put it out there that we are, quote, coming for Roe v. Wade. That is a mistake, because we are putting it out there and implying that we are sending a justice to the bench to carry out religious judicial activism, which is a mistake and is unconstitutional. And if we as conservatives are going to imply that, if that's going to be our messaging, we might as well spit on the Constitution. That is not what we stand for.
Read a book. A book. Not lots of them, one. Okay, like one. Not Harry Potter. I mean, like a book about read the Constitution. We can start with that. Read the Constitution and you show me where in the Constitution there's a right to abortion. And then we can start talking about whether this is a religious edict trying to take down Roe v. Wade. I mean, honestly, it's just make a logical argument. Make a good argument. That's not a good argument. Now, I got into it a little bit with Tomi Lahren over the last couple of days because I suggested she made a similar argument on Twitter. I said it was a dumb argument. She said, you can't tell me what to do. And I'm getting real sick of people on the right saying to me, you can't tell me what to do. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm saying what you should do if you are an intelligent person. And that would be maybe read enough to defend your position well. Let's be real about this. The reason people oppose Roe v. Wade is not just because they are against abortion. If they were just against abortion, then they would presumably be pushing for a constitutional amendment to ban abortion across the country, or federal legislation to ban abortion across the country. That would be their primary focus, the constitutional amendment. The reason that there are so many people on the right who hate Roe v. Wade is not just because it is an immoral outcome, but because it has nothing to do with the Constitution. I can't name a single person, a single legal theorist on the right who says, I oppose Roe v. Wade because I'm a religious person. Not one. The reason you oppose Roe v. Wade is because it has nothing to do with the Constitution. It is a garbage legal decision. Even people on the left who are honest will acknowledge that while they like the outcome of Roe v. Wade, it has nothing to do with the law and it has nothing to do with the Constitution. And playing into this propaganda effort by the left to suggest that it's just a bunch of religious fanatics who want to overturn Roe v. Wade is deeply irresponsible by Tomi Lahren. Deeply irresponsible. It's also really establishment. I mean, that's the part of this that's so ironic, is that Tomi Lahren and some people who are fans of hers are suggesting that it's anti-establishment to suggest that Roe v. Wade should be upheld, or that we should stay away from social issues. Donald Trump ran on social issues. He didn't run away from them. He ran basically on cultural social issues, and he won. Beyond that, it was the establishment that's been saying for most of my adult lifetime that social issues should be avoided at all costs. Let's focus on economics. Let's focus on foreign policy. I've been saying for years that Republicans running away from social policy is foolish because people actually want to hear about the morality of politics. But I wish that I'm struggling for words here because, again, I don't want to rip on Tomi Lahren, but when you say stuff this ignorantly with this much confidence, then you need to be called out for it because this is just not true and it's not right, and I don't know what you think she's doing here. Okay. I'm old enough to remember when Bill Clinton said abortion should be safe, legal, and rare. I'm old enough to remember that. Now, it's abortion should be plentiful, available, and celebrated. We should cheer for it. Because killing a baby in the womb is a sign of womanhood. It's a sign that you are truly a woman in charge of your own life. If you have not actually killed a baby in your womb, that means that you are subjecting yourself to the hierarchical preferences of evil masculinity. But if you kill a baby in the womb, that shows that you've stood up to the man. Sure, you might have killed a baby in the process, but at least you stood up to the man. And this is the perspective of someone on the left. Now, the pro-life issue is one on which the right can win and should win because this is an issue that is as vital morally as any issue the United States has ever faced, up to and including slavery. Okay, the murder of 1 million babies a year in the womb is a serious moral issue. And if you don't think it's a serious moral issue, it's because you haven't looked at it hard enough. Okay, but folks on the right tend to shy away from this, and it's a serious problem. So Leonard Leo, who's one of the fellows who's helping Trump select the next Supreme Court justice, he was on Sunday he was on This Week on ABC, and he said that rumors of Roe being overturned, that's greatly exaggerated. Why is it always the job of the right to quell rumors about Roe being overturned. I don't understand this. Why shouldn't the right say, hell yes, we want to overturn Roe because it's a bad decision? Why shouldn't that be something the right campaigns on? By the way, overturning Roe does not mean that abortion becomes illegal across 50 states. If you think that California is suddenly going to ban abortion, you're out of your mind. California is not going to ban abortion. Neither is Massachusetts, neither is New York, neither is New Jersey, neither is Illinois. Right? There are too many states in the union that are going to allow abortion to continue unfettered. But the right is constantly running away from their own positions on this stuff. So Leonard Leo, whom I think is a quite brilliant legal mind, here is saying, well, Roe's not going to be overturned. Let's stop with all the fright. Why is everyone so worried? Okay, so, all of the talk about don't worry about it, it's just speculation. The right is constantly attempting to run away from this issue. So more evidence of this, Tomi Lahren, who, I've refrained from criticizing generally because, Tomi does what Tomi does. But Tomi Lahren has now made the case that we should never speak about abortion. This is, of course, because she is pro-choice. Tomi Lahren is pro-abortion. She went on The View and she suggested that it's only religious objection to abortion that was driving the right's objection to abortion. So she was on Fox News Final Thoughts, and she suggested that Republicans only win by staying out of the social issues.
Let's be honest, the federal government does few things well, and I believe regulating social issues is an area where it fails. Let the churches, the nonprofits, and the community groups step in, not almighty Uncle Sam.
Okay, so I am generally friendly to libertarian arguments, but this is not any social issue when you are talking about abortion. When you are talking about abortion, you are talking about an issue of protecting human life. Okay, by this definition, slavery is a social issue. By the way, Tomi Lahren is very fond of talking about social issues when it suits her purposes. I mean, how many times have you heard Tomi Lahren talk about the flag and patriotism and kneeling for the national anthem and culture? I mean, that's what Tomi Lahren specializes in. She's not exactly a Milton Friedman economist, right? You're not going to hear her sitting there spouting Vienna School of Economics explanations of trade theory, right? That's not Tomi's thing. So for her to say that we are not going to focus in on social issues because otherwise we're never going to win, I think is foolish. Not only is it foolish, let's be real about this. If the right is not fighting to protect human life, then the right is not doing its job. No victory that leaves behind babies in the womb to be carved apart and then flushed down a toilet, no right that does that in the name of victory is winning a victory that is worth fighting for. Victory has to mean something, and one of those things that victory has to mean is standing up for the lives of the unborn. Now, Tomi responded to all of this. She got heavy flack from a lot of folks on the right for saying all of this, that the right should leave behind the social issues. By the way, Donald Trump didn't leave behind the social issues during the election cycle. He was very pro-life during the election cycle, at least insofar as what he had to say. And Tomi then tweeted something out about how she's not going to be cudgeled into believing something that she doesn't believe. No one's trying to cudgel Tomi into believing something she doesn't believe. She's certainly able to believe whatever she wants to believe. The point I'm making is that she's wrong. So she tweeted out, "Do I form my political beliefs based on acceptance from the self-appointed thought wardens of either political party? No, and I never will. You don't have to like or agree with my thoughts, but at least you know they are my own." A couple of things about this. This seems to be the last refuge of people who can't make a good argument nowadays, is that you make an argument and then they say, "You're not going to box me in with your standards." I'm not trying to box you in. Make your argument. I just think your argument sucks. Like, that's not me boxing you in. I've heard the same from several relatively major figures in the past several weeks, that if I say that I don't like something that you've said, that suddenly I'm trying to provoke you into moving your position. No, I'm trying to present a differing position. You can say whatever you want. It's a free country. You can make a bad argument if you want to. Also, the substitution of authenticity for solid thinking is not even an argument. It's an emotional appeal. This idea that you don't have to like or agree with my thoughts, but at least you know they are my own. Right, I assume they are your own, which is why I am criticizing you. Or if they're somebody else's, I'd be criticizing them. The substitution of authenticity, well, he's very authentic in how he feels. Therefore, you really shouldn't question. Therefore, you really shouldn't question what they have to say. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. I think that's completely nonsensical on virtually every level. Okay, meanwhile, I don't want to center on my criticism for folks on the right, because the reality is that folks on the left continue to be more and more extreme in every possible way. Over the weekend, there was more sort of extreme behavior from folks on the left. The point is, I don't think that we ought to surrender our principles simply because the left is really militant on issues like abortion. I think that ought to make us more militant, at least in our pursuit of the right principles. I don't mean more militant like physically, but I do mean that we ought to stand up strongly and proudly for the positions in which we believe, particularly when they happen to be purely moral, as in protection.
Was ousted from the Blaze after she went on The View and talked about why pro-life people were basically stupid. And now she is on Sean Hannity's show where she gives her final thoughts, which I think is an apt description of her segment, Final Thoughts. So I think so she, in any case, Tomi, I think Tomi's a nice person. I've met Tomi. I think that, you know, maybe she's trying, but this is not good. Okay, so Tomi was giving her response to Joe Kennedy's response to the State of the Union address, and here is what she came up with.
If you haven't yet had the displeasure of watching that little lip response to President Trump's State of the Union, I suggest you take some Pepto-Bismol or some Midol or whatever you need to do to get through it, because it was pathetic and it was embarrassing. Oh my God.
Okay, so she's going after him. She calls him a limp bleep. And then she also said something about how he was a ginger or something. I mean, this idea that Tomi Lahren is some sort of thought leader for conservatives should be humiliating to conservatives. I'm sorry, Tomi Lahren is not a thought leader for conservatives. Tomi Lahren is a pretty woman, a beautiful woman who says things. I mean, that's it. That's it. And she says inflammatory things. And if people resonate to that, it's because people have a short attention span. But Tomi has bragged about not reading books. Okay, one of the reasons you need to read books is so that you have better response to Joe Kennedy than just that he is a limp bleep ginger. Okay, you need some actual content as to why you think that he's wrong. Otherwise, we're not having arguments. We're just insulting each other, and it's just, I hate this kind of stuff. I really, really do. I think that, you know, listen, I'll drop insulting language every so often, but nothing of that magnitude. And I attempt to support my arguments not with insults, but with actual data. Conservatives, if you're a young conservative and you're looking for somebody to look up to, I'm not saying you have to look up to me. You don't. There are plenty of people to look up to. All I'm saying is that you should probably steer away from the people who do this kind of stuff. Just read a book. It's just